Morning, guys. So yeah, I got a leather jacket on. It's getting a little bit chill in the morning here, or the mornings here. About 12 degrees, so it's going to be really, really cold, I think, for the winter. But yeah, personal responsibility. This came on in my head because a lot of things going around, like, about the corona. Yeah, I'm talking about it again. But a lot of people are saying, oh, it's all the PM's fault. He should have done this, he should have done that, he should do something. And the same is being said of a lot of leaders around the world. Like, some people are saying, oh, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. It's all their responsibility. I'm like, yeah, but then when or where does your own personal responsibility for your own health start? I mean, really, they can make all sorts of suggestions, laws, and they actually have banned gatherings over 500 people, and I know in some countries they have instituted a mandatory quarantine, which is enforced by the police. Do you want it to get that far? I mean, who knows how long it'll last for, and when are they going to take over your whole life? If you don't take over on your own personal responsibility for your own health, something that simple as washing your hands, self-isolation, eating right, exercising. I mean, do you want it to be mandated that every day you've got to get up at a certain time, you've got to exercise this much, and if you don't, you get penalised? And I'm just like, so when is your own personal responsibility going to start? Looking after not only yourself, but which is an essential thing, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after the people that you care about and you love, and your local community, your family. I think it was brought home a lot more because on the weekend there was a tragic thing that happened, and a young person died, was killed, and the person was like, the parents of the child was like, they, a lot of good has come from it, because then the community has reached out to them and like supported them and helped them, and then you just didn't realise that they thought they were all alone. But there are people out there who care, and people who will look after them, and in this time. And that's the thing. If you don't know how to do that, if you aren't able to think of the ways in which you can look after not only yourself, your family, and your local community, have you stopped thinking at all? Like, have you considered what it's doing to rely completely on, like, the government? I mean, really, what choices? Your choices are really limited if you're just relying on the government for everything in everyday life. Like, the right way to speak. How are you going to learn if all you're getting taught is this is the only way to speak, this is the right way to speak? You're not going to learn. Your brain is not engaged. You become part of the herd. You're no longer a unique person, because they'll stamp that uniqueness out of you. That's kind of like my thinking, that the way a lot of this sort of logic leads to, that they don't understand that the people cease to become individuals, and the thing is, yeah, it's not all good. When you're an individual, you get targeted. You can get harassed for just being you, or you get paid out on, but then that makes you unique. And in being an individual, you make your own decisions, your own thoughts. You're not necessarily alone, because there's other people who think like you, not exactly like you, but they think kind of alike like you. And you can find those people. It's not all that, all that difficult or hard at times, or it can be sometimes, but it's because you're still locked in that mode of, these are the people that are all the same, and I'm still thinking the same, so I'm looking for things in the same way, I'm using the same words. How about I change terminologies? How about I apply a little bit of critical thinking? How about I get a little curious about my life? I mean, personal responsibility, it's not something a lot of people are willing to take on. Or they'll take on, a lot of people these days want the choices and the options to be able to choose, but they don't want to take on the personal responsibility or the consequences of their actions. And then they blame a lot of other people. We've had, the whole insurance debacle with HIH in Australia years and years ago, and a lot of people who are doing investments are saying, oh, the government's got to regulate everything, you've got to regulate every single business. Now that's a problem, because anything you do with regards to investment involves risk, and it's expected that when you go in there, it's like a buyer beware. You've got to be knowledgeable enough to try and do that. Now when you go in, you understand the risks. Now the government cannot regulate everything, otherwise she'll be like cotton wooling everybody, and no one will seek to achieve. Everyone will just be happy in their own little bubble, and the people that seek to achieve will be like gone somewhere else. Like it's weird. I was reading this book, I think it was like the Ugly series or the Pretty series that a friend put me onto, and it's a really interesting dystopic life where everybody gets to be pretty. You know, everyone's born natural. They get cordoned off in a certain area, you're called ugly, and then, you know, at a certain age, if you meet certain criteria, you get to be physically molded into being pretty. But with that, they do surgery which affects your brain, which makes you more malleable. And you can imagine life like that, and I've read lots of other books and stories where, you know, everything in the food even is designed to stop and to control the population, such as there's contraceptive in the food, so you can't have kids unless you get it properly screened and tested and all sorts of other stuff. The food is deliberately has like drugs and various compounds in it to make the population more malleable, you know, and so like any thought that's not regulated by the government is, you know, very rare. And there are some people that can go outside of that, because there are always outliers. You know, they either get killed or they get recruited to enforce the status quo, you know. So that's probably a bit further along from personal responsibility. But think of the things that you have in everyday life, things that you think, you know, what are the things you think the government should be responsible for? What are the things that you think you personally should be responsible for? And what are the things you think you and your family are responsible for? And sort of bring out in the stages. I mean, that's the thing. You've got to look at your sphere of influence and what are you responsible for. You find out that you can actually influence a lot in your own life. I mean, really you can. If you just take the responsibility for it, take the risk for it, you accept the consequences, you realise just how much you can do as an individual to affect your own life. By doing so, you can actually affect other people's life in a good way. You know, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but that's the thing. That's life. Good and bad happens. It's what you make of it. It's how you act and how you live your life. Me, I take personal responsibility for my own health and for those around me. You know, in a socially responsible way, that if I'm sick, I'll let people know. If I'm getting sick at work, I'll take the day off if I'm not feeling well, because, you know, I'm no good to anyone if I'm sick, and plus I don't want to spread anything to my co-workers, because they have kids, they have family, you know. It's not just about me saying I have to earn a living. It is a responsible thing to do. It's unfortunate for people that are on casual, and what we call in Australia wage, because wage and salary are different here in Australia. You know, some people, they need to work, but then they also got to make the decision of, do I work half days and knock out my whole crew, and struggle and possibly be no good and be sick longer, or do I take an extra day off, not have the pay, and then be able to work much more effectively when other people are possibly getting sick and pick up their work, you know. I mean, there's a little bit of selfishness in there, but it kind of balances out eventually. And I have actually worked a lot of jobs where I've been casual and not had access to sick leave, so I do know what I'm talking about there. There's been times when I've actually run myself into the ground and went, you know what, no, I'm going to stop it right here, recover, because I know there's things that go in cycles like flu season, that, so I'll take time to recover, and then when flu season's there, I'll pick up the work when people go sick. So, you know, personal responsibility. Responsibility for your own actions and things that you think that other people should be responsible for. Take a look and see, no, wait a minute, do they have to be responsible for that? And why do I think they have to be responsible for that? You know, Where does my responsibility start in that? Is it much more effective for me to take responsibility for that? Because 9 times out of 10, or 8 times out of 10, if you take on responsibility for things like your own health, like your own work, like your own thinking, like your own education and skills and all that sort of stuff, you are actually quicker and more effective at it than the government. And a lot of people are crying for the government to do things, and I'll tell you something now, it is much quicker and faster for private industries and companies and small businesses to initiate and enforce a lot of things that people want government to be responsible for, because the government have to go through legislation, they argue with each other, the opposing side wants to quibble over little bits and pieces to their own political advantage, particularly in this day and age, and it's just a lot quicker for private enterprise to go, right, this is what we think is a socially responsible thing to do, and we'll do it. That's like it is much more quicker for you to take care of your own health, because you can start now, you can start today and do that. You don't have to wait for the government to legislate something. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thing on personal responsibility as a general thing. Personal responsibility and kink is something completely different. Well, not completely different, but it is a little twist on something. So, but I better go because I've been ranting long enough. Hope you guys stay safe. At the moment, there's a lot of events being cancelled, which I'm very sad about, because there was one I was going to go to. It was a cheese festival, so I am going to have my own cheese festival and cheese tastings at home with my family and friends. And I'm going to say, look, here we go, we've got a cheese platter. I've decided to do that since they've cancelled that cheese festival. I'm going to do that, cheese platter. So that'll be fun. It'll be more cozy. I won't have to worry about parking. I won't have to worry about transport and all that sort of stuff. So I guess it's a little beneficial for me. And if I have a bit too much wine with the cheese, I don't have to travel anywhere. I don't have to worry about how to get home. I'm already home, and I'll just go, cheese baby. Anyway, oh yes, for those who like truffles, truffle pecorino, awesome. You can have it by itself. Get a really tiny sliver, put it on your tongue, and just let it sort of melt on your tongue. Anyway, tip for the day, truffle pecorino. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye.